The divorce papers arrived on a Tuesday, served to me in front of my entire family at Romano's restaurant while I was cutting into my salmon. But let me back up 6 months to explain how asking my husband to sleep somewhere else for just one night ended with legal documents and a public humiliation that left me speechless. My name is Zafira Grell. Everyone calls me Z, and I'm 34 years old, working as a marketing coordinator for a mid-sized firm downtown. I thought I had everything figured out. A decent marriage to Owen, my high school math teacher husband, our 7-year-old daughter Eva, and a comfortable 2-bedroom apartment in the city. Most importantly, I had my best friend Mira Loxley, who'd been my rock since college. That October evening, when everything started unraveling innocently enough. I was stirring pasta sauce when my phone buzzed with a text from Mira. "Can't go home tonight. Derek changed the locks. I'm sitting in my car crying." Mira had been going through a messy separation from her husband Derek for months. As her best friend, I felt obligated to help. Without thinking twice, I called her. "Come over right now," I said into the phone. "You can stay in our guest room tonight." "Are you sure Owen won't mind?" Mira's voice was shaky, exhausted. "Of course not. We're friends. That's what friends do." When Owen walked into the kitchen 20 minutes later, loosening his tie after parent-teacher conferences, I was already setting up the guest room with fresh sheets. "Mira's coming over," I announced casually. "She needs somewhere to sleep tonight. Derek locked her out of their place." Owen paused, his hand frozen on his tie. "Tonight? It's Tuesday. Eva has school tomorrow and I have early meetings." "So?" "She's going through a crisis, Owen. She needs support." "I understand that, but couldn't she stay with her sister Marina, or get a hotel room?" I turned to face him, irritation already building. "Are you seriously going to make my best friend pay for a hotel when we have a perfectly good guest room? What's wrong with you?" "Nothing's wrong with me, I just think—" "You just think what? That your precious routine matters more than helping someone in need?" Owen's jaw tightened. He had this way of going quiet when he was frustrated, which always made me feel like I was talking to a wall. "That's not what I said, Z. I just wish you'd discussed it with me first." "Discussed what? Being a decent human being? God, Owen, sometimes I wonder if you have any compassion at all." He stared at me for a long moment, then nodded slowly. "Fine. Where am I sleeping?" "The guest room, obviously. Mira needs privacy right now. She's emotionally fragile." "So I'm sleeping on the couch in my own home." "It's one night, Owen. One night, don't be so selfish." That word, selfish, hung in the air between us. I saw something shift in Owen's expression, but before I could analyze it, the doorbell rang. Mira stood on our doorstep, looking like a tragic movie heroine. Her auburn hair was disheveled, mascara smudged under her green eyes, and she clutched a hastily packed overnight bag. At 35, she was still striking, the kind of woman who turned heads even when she was falling apart. "Thank you so much," she whispered, throwing her arms around me. "I don't know what I would have done." "Don't even think about it," I said, hugging her back. "Come in. I made extra pasta." Owen managed a polite hello, but I could feel his tension radiating across the room. He ate dinner mostly in silence, while Mira and I talked about Derek's latest manipulations and her lawyer's advice. Eva, bless her heart, tried to cheer Mira up by showing her drawings from art class. "This one's our family," Eva said, pointing to stick figures. "Mommy, Daddy, and me, and this one's our house." "That's beautiful, sweetheart," Mira said, but I noticed her glance toward Owen. "Your daddy seems very quiet tonight." "He's always quiet," Eva said matter-of-factly. "Mommy says he thinks too much." After Eva went to bed, I found Owen in our bedroom, quietly packing clothes into a small overnight bag. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Getting what I need for tomorrow. I assume I'm sleeping on the couch." "I told you, it's just for one night." "Right, one night." He zipped the bag and looked at me. "You know, Z, you didn't even ask me. You just decided." "Because I knew you'd do the right thing. You always do." Something flickered across his face, hurt maybe, or disappointment. Do I? Of course. That's who you are, Owen. Reliable, steady. He nodded, but not in agreement, more like he was filing away information. Good night, Z. Good night. But I didn't sleep well. Around midnight, I heard voices from the kitchen, Mira and Owen talking quietly. I couldn't make out words, but Mira's laugh drifted down the hallway, followed by the sound of the refrigerator opening. They were having a late-night conversation that I wasn't part of, and something about that bothered me. The next morning, I found Owen folding blankets on the couch. He'd showered and dressed for work, but there were dark circles under his eyes. Did you sleep okay? I asked. Fine. Good. Mira should be gone by the time you get home. She's looking at apartments today. Owen nodded and gathered his things. I'll pick up Eva from school. I have a faculty meeting, so we'll be late. Sounds good. He paused at the door. Z, next time you want to invite someone to stay over, could you run it by me first? It's our home. Of course, I said, but I was already irritated again. Why did everything have to be such a negotiation with him? After he left, Mira emerged from the guest room in one of my robes, looking refreshed and beautiful despite her crisis. Your husband is really sweet, she said, pouring coffee. We talked for a while last night. He was very understanding about my situation. That's Owen, Mr. Understanding. I tried to keep the sarcasm out of my voice, but Mira noticed. You sound annoyed. I'm not annoyed. I just wish he was more spontaneous sometimes. Everything has to be planned and discussed and analyzed. Derek was spontaneous, Mira said quietly. It wasn't always a good thing. I know, I'm sorry, I'm just tired. But as I got ready for work, I found myself thinking about Owen's reaction. Why couldn't he just be supportive without making it about him? Why did he have to make me feel guilty for helping my best friend? I didn't realize it then, but that was the beginning of everything falling apart. The night I asked my husband to sleep elsewhere, because my best friend was going through it, was the night I started choosing someone else over my marriage. And Owen, being Owen, was paying attention to every single choice I made. 3 days later, Mira was still sleeping in our guest room. Just until I find the right place, she explained over breakfast. The apartments I've seen are either too expensive or in terrible neighborhoods. Derek really screwed me over financially. Owen said nothing, just drank his coffee and read the news on his tablet. Eva had started including Mira in her morning routine, showing her homework and asking for help with her hair. I told myself this was sweet. Eva needed more female influence in her life. Maybe we could have lunch today, Mira suggested as I gathered my work things. I'm meeting with another realtor at 2, but I'm free before then. I'd love that. Let's go to Café Lucid. I haven't been there in weeks. Owen looked up from his tablet. Café Lucid? That's where you had lunch yesterday. So? Nothing. Just observing. There it was again. That careful, measured tone that made me feel like I was being studied. Is there something wrong with having lunch with my friend, Owen? Of course not. But his expression said otherwise. I kissed Eva goodbye and left for work, irritation building in my chest. When had Owen become so controlling? At Café Lucid, Mira and I settled into our usual corner booth. She looked amazing. She'd borrowed one of my dresses and done her makeup perfectly. Several men glanced our way as we ordered. You look so much better, I told her. The stress is leaving your face. I feel better. Being around you and your family has been healing. Eva is such a sweet girl, and Owen... She paused, stirring sugar into her latte. Owen is really special, Z. You're lucky. Lucky how? He's so present, so attentive. Last night, when I couldn't sleep, he came out to check on me. We talked for hours about books and teaching and life. When's the last time you two had a conversation like that? I tried to remember. We talk all the time. But do you really talk about dreams and fears and what makes you happy? The question bothered me more than it should have. We've been married for 9 years, Mira. We're past the deep conversation stage. Are you? because from where I'm sitting, it looks like you're both going through the motions. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing bad, just maybe this separation from Derek is making me see things differently. Life is short, you know. We should be with people who really see us. Something in her tone made me look at her more carefully. Mira, are you okay? I'm better than okay. For the first time in years, I feel like myself again. That afternoon, back at the office, I found myself thinking about our conversation. Was I going through the motions with Owen? When I really considered it, we did seem to be living parallel lives. Him with his teaching and grading, me with my marketing campaigns. Both of us focused on Eva, but not necessarily on each other. My coworker Jessica stopped by my desk around 4 o'clock. How's your houseguest situation working out? Fine, why? Just curious. My sister went through a divorce last year, and it was really hard on her friends' marriages. All that emotional intensity can be disruptive. Disruptive how? Jessica shrugged. People going through divorces sometimes don't have the best boundaries. They're vulnerable, they need attention, and sometimes they get it from inappropriate places. Mira isn't like that. I'm sure she's not. I'm just saying, be careful. Protect your marriage. The comment annoyed me, but it also planted a seed of doubt. Was Mira being inappropriate? I thought about her conversations with Owen, the way she'd borrowed my clothes, how comfortable she'd become in our space. When I got home that evening, I found Owen helping Eva with homework at the kitchen table while Mira prepared dinner. The scene looked almost domestic, like Mira belonged there. You don't have to cook, I told her. I wanted to. It's the least I can do. Owen picked up groceries on his way home. Owen went grocery shopping. I asked him to, Mira said. I gave him a list. I hope that's okay. I looked at Owen, who was carefully not meeting my eyes. Since when do you grocery shop on weekdays? Since we have a guest who's cooking dinner, he said mildly. It seemed like the polite thing to do. Right, polite. During dinner, I watched the three of them interact. Mira asked Eva about her friends at school, complimented Owen on his lesson plans, and generally acted like she'd been part of our family for years. Eva was clearly charmed, and even Owen seemed more animated than usual. Can Mira help me with my book report? Eva asked. She knows all about the book I'm reading. That's up to your mom, Owen said. Of course she can help, I said, but something about the exchange bothered me. Since when did Eva ask Mira for help instead of us? After Eva went to bed, the three of us sat in the living room. Owen graded papers, while Mira and I shared a bottle of wine and talked about her apartment search. The realtor showed me this cute one-bedroom in Riverside, she said. But it's so expensive, and I'd be all alone. I've gotten used to having people around. You'll make new friends, I said. Maybe even meet someone new. Maybe, but I don't want to rush into anything. I'm enjoying being single, focusing on myself and the people who really matter. She looked at Owen when she said it, and he glanced up from his papers. For just a moment, something passed between them, a look of understanding that didn't include me. I should probably get some sleep, Owen said, standing up. Early day tomorrow. The couch again, I asked. I don't mind. I've gotten used to it. After he left, Mira moved closer to me on the sofa. He's sleeping on the couch every night. Z, that's not fair to him. He said he doesn't mind. He's being polite. God, you're so lucky to have someone who puts your needs first like that. My needs? Your need to help me. Your need to be a good friend. He's sacrificing his comfort so you can do what you think is right. The wine was making me emotional, and Mira's words hit something deep inside me. Do you really think I'm a good friend? The best. You saved me, Z. I was drowning, and you threw me a lifeline. She reached over and squeezed my hand. Her touch was warm, comforting in a way that Owen's hadn't been lately. When was the last time he'd told me I was good at something? When was the last time he'd looked at me like I mattered? I should go to bed, I said, but I didn't move. Stay for a few more minutes. It's nice, just the two of us talking. So I stayed, and we talked about college memories and dreams we'd given up and the ways marriage changes you. Mira was such a good listener, so present and engaged. By the time I finally went to bed, it was past midnight, and Owen was asleep on the couch, one arm thrown over his eyes. I stood there looking at him for a moment, feeling a strange mix of guilt and resentment. He looked uncomfortable, cramped on our small sofa, but he'd never complained. Not once. Maybe Mira was right. Maybe I was lucky to have someone so accommodating. But as I got ready for bed, I found myself thinking about the look that had passed between Owen and Mira earlier. What had they talked about during those late-night conversations? What did Mira see in him that I'd stopped noticing? And why did that bother me so much? By Friday of that week, Mira had been staying with us for 6 days, and our routine had completely shifted around her presence. She woke up early to make elaborate breakfasts, picked Eva up from school when I was busy at work, and had somehow become the center of our household's social activity. "I found the perfect apartment," she announced over dinner, "but I can't move in until the 1st of next month. The current tenant needs time to relocate." "That's 3 weeks away," Owen said quietly. "I know it's an imposition. Maybe I should look into extended stay hotels." "Don't be ridiculous," I interrupted. "You're staying here. Right, Owen?" Owen looked at me for a long moment. "If that's what you want." "It's what any decent person would want." That night, I found Owen on the couch again, staring at the ceiling instead of sleeping. "Are you okay?" I whispered. "Fine." "You don't seem fine." He sat up, running a hand through his hair. "Z, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Are you happy?" The question caught me off guard. "What do you mean?" "I mean, are you happy? With us, with our life, with our marriage?" "That's a weird question. Why are you asking?" "Just answer me, please." I thought about it. Was I happy? I felt restless lately, unsatisfied in ways I couldn't quite name. But wasn't that normal after 9 years of marriage? "I'm content," I said finally. "Content." He repeated the word like it tasted bitter. "Not happy, content." "Owen, what's this about?" "Nothing. Forget I asked." But I couldn't forget. The conversation bothered me all weekend, especially as I watched Mira seamlessly integrate herself into our family activities. She came grocery shopping with us, helped Eva with her art project, and even convinced Owen to rent a movie she wanted to see. "You two have such a comfortable relationship," she observed Sunday night as we cleaned up after dinner. "So easy and natural." "Comfortable," I repeated. There was that word again. I mean it as a compliment. Derek and I were always fighting or passionate or dramatic. You and Owen have something stable. Stable, comfortable, content. When had those become the words people used to describe my marriage? Monday morning brought a new development. Jessica from work cornered me in the break room with a concerned expression. "Z, I need to tell you something, and I hope you won't be mad." "What's going on?" "My neighbor lives in your building. She mentioned seeing you and another woman coming and going at all hours, and she was confused because she thought Owen was your husband." "Mira is staying with us temporarily. I told you that." "I know, but people are talking. And not just neighbors. Some of the teachers at Owen's school have noticed he's been different lately. Tired. Distracted." "What teachers?" "My cousin works there. She said Owen mentioned having a house guest, and when she asked about it, he got really uncomfortable." Heat rose in my cheeks. "People need to mind their own business." "I agree, but I thought you should know. Rumors have a way of growing." That afternoon, I decided to surprise Owen by picking up Eva from school myself. I wanted to see his work environment, maybe meet some of these gossipy teachers Jessica had mentioned. The elementary school was a cheerful brick building with colorful murals and playground equipment. I found Owen's classroom and knocked on the open door. "Z?" He looked genuinely surprised. "What are you doing here?" "Thought I'd pick up Eva for once. Give you a break." "That's nice." Thank you. A woman appeared in the doorway, mid-40s, professionally dressed, with the confident bearing of someone in administration. You must be Owen's wife, she said, extending her hand. I'm Principal Martinez. We've heard so much about you. All good things, I hope. Of course. Owen talks about his family constantly, though he's seemed a bit stressed lately. Everything okay at home? I felt Owen tense beside me. Everything's fine. We have a friend staying with us temporarily, so our routine is a little disrupted. Ah, house guests. They can be challenging, even when they're welcome. It's not challenging at all. Mira is like family. Principal Martinez smiled politely, but I caught her exchanging a look with Owen. What had he told them about our situation? On the drive home, Eva chatted about her day while I processed the uncomfortable encounter. Daddy's been sad lately, Eva said suddenly. What makes you think that? He doesn't laugh at my jokes anymore, and he sleeps on the couch every night. Why doesn't he sleep in your bed? It's complicated, sweetie. Adult stuff. Is it because of Mira? The question hit me like a slap. Why would you ask that? I don't know. Everything changed when she came. Out of the mouths of babes. Even Eva had noticed the shift in our family dynamic. That evening, Mira had news. I had lunch with Marina today, she said, referring to her older sister. She thinks I should move in with her instead of getting my own place. Do you want to live with Marina? I asked, surprised by how much the possibility bothered me. Not really. She's very judgmental about the divorce. She keeps saying I should have tried harder to make it work with Derek. That's ridiculous. Derek was manipulative and controlling. Exactly. You understand me in a way she never has. That's why I feel so comfortable here. Owen looked up from his laptop. What about other friends? College roommates, work colleagues? I don't really have close friends besides Z. I put all my energy into my marriage, and when it ended, she shrugged. I realized how isolated I'd become. That's sad, Owen said, and he sounded genuinely sympathetic. It is, but being here has reminded me what real friendship looks like, what real caring looks like. She was looking at me when she said it, but her words seemed directed at Owen too. I felt a strange flutter of jealousy. Was she developing feelings for my husband? Or was I projecting my own complicated emotions onto the situation? Later that night, after Owen had settled onto the couch with his usual resigned acceptance, I found myself restless and unable to sleep. I got up for water and found Mira in the kitchen, also apparently suffering from insomnia. Can't sleep either, she asked softly. Too much on my mind. Want to talk about it? We sat at the kitchen table, and I found myself confessing things I'd never said out loud. My feeling that Owen and I had become roommates rather than lovers. My sense that I was going through the motions of a life I'd outgrown. My fear that I was wasting my youth on stability instead of passion. You're too young to settle for comfortable, Mira said, reaching across the table to touch my hand. You deserve someone who sees you, really sees you. Owen sees me. Does he? When's the last time he complimented you, or surprised you, or made you feel beautiful? I couldn't remember. Marriage isn't about constant romance, Mira. It's about partnership and commitment and settling for less than you deserve. Her hand was still covering mine, warm and soft. You're an amazing woman, Z. You're kind and generous and beautiful, and any person would be lucky to have your attention. Any person? Any person. Something in her tone made me look at her more carefully. In the dim kitchen light, she looked almost ethereal, her hair falling in waves around her face, her eyes reflecting the street light from outside. Mira, I should go to bed, she said quickly, pulling her hand away. Good night, Z. I sat in the kitchen for a long time after she left, trying to understand what had just happened. Had Mira been flirting with me? Was I imagining the undercurrent of attraction I'd been feeling lately? And why did the possibility excite me as much as it terrified me? The following week brought our monthly family dinner at Romano's restaurant. a tradition Owen's mother Yvonne had instituted years ago to maintain family bonds. Usually these gatherings were pleasant enough, but I was dreading this one because I knew there would be questions about Mira. "Should I come with you?" Mira asked as I got ready that Sunday afternoon. "I don't want to intrude on family time." "You're not intruding. You're practically family at this point." Owen emerged from the bathroom, adjusting his tie. "Mira, you're welcome to join us, but my mother can be intense. She asks a lot of personal questions." "I don't mind. I'd love to meet more of your family." The drive to Romano's was tense. Owen seemed lost in thought. Eva was cranky because we'd interrupted her playtime, and Mira kept asking nervous questions about what Owen's family was like. "His mother is very traditional," I explained. "She has strong opinions about marriage and family roles. His brother Seth is more laid back." "What about his father?" "Died when Owen was in college," Owen said quietly. "Heart attack." "I'm sorry. That must have been devastating." "It was." I noticed Owen's hands tighten on the steering wheel. He rarely talked about his father's death, even with me. Romano's was crowded, as always on Sunday evenings. Yvonne had reserved a large table in the back, and she was already seated when we arrived, her silver hair perfectly styled, her expression politely expectant. "Owen, darling." She stood to hug her son, then turned to me with a cooler smile. "Zephyra." "Hi, Yvonne. This is my friend Mira. She's staying with us for a few weeks." Yvonne's eyebrows rose slightly. "How nice. And where is your husband, dear?" "We're separated," Mira said smoothly. "Getting divorced, actually." "I see." Yvonne's tone suggested she didn't approve. "How unfortunate." Seth arrived with his girlfriend Kelly, and we made introductions again. I could see Seth studying the dynamic between Owen, Mira, and me with curious eyes. "So you're staying with Owen and Z?" Seth asked as we settled into our seats. "Temporarily, just until I find the right apartment." "That's generous of them. Where are you sleeping? Their place isn't that big." The question hung in the air for a moment. I felt heat rise in my cheeks. "The guest room," Mira said. "Owen's been very accommodating, sleeping on the couch so I can have privacy." Yvonne's fork paused halfway to her mouth. "Owen is sleeping on the couch? In his own home?" "It's temporary," I said quickly. "For how long?" "A few more weeks, maybe a month." "A month?" Yvonne set down her fork. "Owen, you're sleeping on the couch for a month so Zephyra's friend can have your guest room." "It's fine, Mom." "It's not fine. You work hard all day, you come home to your own house, and you can't even sleep in a proper bed." "Yvonne, please," I said. "Mira is going through a difficult time. We're just trying to help." "By displacing your own husband?" The conversation was attracting attention from nearby tables. Eva looked confused and uncomfortable, and Owen's jaw was tight with embarrassment. "Maybe we should change the subject," Seth suggested diplomatically, but Yvonne wasn't finished. "I'm sorry, but I don't understand this arrangement. Mira, surely you have other options. Family? Other friends?" "My sister and I don't get along well," Mira said, "and Z is my closest friend. She's been incredibly supportive during the worst time of my life." "I'm sure she has. But at what cost to her own marriage?" "Mom." Owen's voice carried a warning. "Don't mom me, Owen. Someone needs to say it. This situation isn't healthy for anyone." "Mira isn't the problem," I snapped. "The problem is people making assumptions about situations they don't understand." "What assumptions? I see a woman who's moved into my son's home and displaced him from his own bedroom. I see my daughter-in-law prioritizing a friend over her husband. What am I misunderstanding?" "You're misunderstanding that marriage is about supporting each other's values. Owen supports my decision to help Mira because he knows it's the right thing to do." I looked at Owen for confirmation, but he was staring at his plate. "Owen," Yvonne prompted, "do you support this arrangement?" The entire table fell silent. Even Eva stopped fidgeting with her crayons. "I support my wife," Owen said finally, but his tone was flat, mechanical. That's not what I asked. It's the only answer I'm giving. The rest of dinner was strained. Conversation limped along, punctuated by uncomfortable silences and meaningful looks. Mira tried to charm Seth and Kelly, but I could tell they were both wary of her. Eva barely ate, clearly picking up on the tension. When we finally left the restaurant, Yvonne pulled Owen aside for a private conversation while the rest of us waited by the cars. I couldn't hear what she was saying, but I could see Owen's shoulders tense as she spoke. "Your mother-in-law doesn't like me," Mira observed. "She doesn't like change. Don't take it personally. It's hard not to. She made me feel like I'm destroying your marriage just by existing." "You're not destroying anything. Yvonne is old-fashioned. She thinks wives should defer to their husbands on everything." "And you don't." "Of course not. I make my own decisions." But even as I said it, I wondered if that was true. Had I made the decision to have Mira stay with us, or had it just happened through a series of small choices that had snowballed out of control? On the drive home, Owen was silent while Eva fell asleep in her car seat and Mira stared out the window. "I'm sorry about your mother," I said finally. "She's protective. She means well." "She was rude to Mira." "Was she? Or was she just honest about an uncomfortable situation?" I turned to look at him. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing. Forget it." But I couldn't forget it. Owen's response felt like a betrayal, a suggestion that he agreed with his mother's criticism. When we got home, he went straight to the living room to set up his makeshift bed, while Mira and I put Eva to bed together. "Your family is lovely," Mira said as we tucked Eva in. "Your daughter adores you." "She adores you too. You're so good with her." "I always wanted children. Derek kept saying we should wait until we were more financially stable, and then—" She shrugged. "Time ran out. You're still young. You could meet someone new, start a family." "Maybe. But right now, I'm grateful for the family I have here." She squeezed my hand, and I felt that same flutter of confusion I'd been experiencing more and more lately. Was Mira just being affectionate, or was there something more in her touch, her words, her lingering looks? Later that night, I found Owen sitting on the couch in the dark, still fully dressed. "Aren't you going to sleep?" "In a minute." I sat down beside him. "Talk to me. What's really bothering you about tonight?" "Nothing's bothering me." "Owen." He sighed. "My mother asked me if I was happy." And I realized I couldn't answer her. The words hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean you couldn't answer her?" "I mean, I don't know anymore, Z. I don't know if I'm happy, or if I'm just going through the motions, or if this is what marriage is supposed to feel like after 9 years. This is what marriage feels like. It's not all passion and romance. It's partnership and commitment and sleeping on the couch while your wife's friend takes over your home. That's not fair. Isn't it? When's the last time you asked me what I wanted, Z? When's the last time my opinion mattered in a decision that affected our family?" I didn't have an answer for that. "I love you," Owen said quietly, "but I don't think you see me anymore. I think you see the idea of me, the reliable husband, the steady provider, the man who'll always say yes to whatever you want. That's not true. Then tell me something about me that you've learned in the last month, something new, something that surprised you." I opened my mouth to respond, then closed it. I couldn't think of anything. "That's what I thought," Owen said, standing up. "Good night, Z." I sat alone in the dark living room for a long time after he went to shower, thinking about his words. When had I stopped seeing Owen as a person and started seeing him as a role? When had I stopped being curious about his thoughts and feelings? And why did it feel too late to start asking those questions now? The next few weeks passed in a strange, tense rhythm. Mira's apartment move-in date came and went. The landlord had decided to renovate first, she explained, pushing her move-in back another month. Owen accepted this news with the same quiet resignation he'd shown about everything else lately, but I noticed him spending more time at school, coming home later, and speaking even less during family dinners. "He's pulling away from you," Mira observed one evening as we watched Owen grade papers at the kitchen table while we shared wine in the living room. "I see it happening. He's just stressed about work. Parent-teacher conferences are coming up. It's more than that. He feels displaced in his own home. Then why doesn't he say something?" "Maybe he has. Maybe you haven't been listening." The comment stung because it felt true. I had been so focused on supporting Mira and managing the household dynamics that I'd stopped paying attention to Owen's subtle signals of distress. "What do you think I should do?" "That's not for me to say, but if I were you, I'd be worried about losing him." "Losing him how?" "Men like Owen don't make scenes, Z. They don't fight or demand or threaten. They just leave. One day you wake up and they're gone, emotionally if not physically." That night, I tried to talk to Owen about us, about our marriage, about his feelings, but he deflected every attempt at serious conversation, claiming he was tired or busy or not in the mood to analyze things. "We're fine," he kept saying. "Everything's fine." But everything wasn't fine, and we both knew it. The breaking point came on a Friday night in November. Mira had been with us for almost 6 weeks, and what was supposed to be a temporary arrangement had become our new normal. She had her own key, her own shelf in the refrigerator, her own relationship with Eva that sometimes felt more intimate than mine. I came home from a particularly stressful day at work to find Mira and Eva baking cookies together, while Owen sat at his laptop, looking exhausted. "Mommy," Eva ran to hug me, flower in her hair. "Mira's teaching me how to make snickerdoodles." "That's wonderful, sweetheart. We made extra for Daddy to take to school tomorrow. He has that big meeting with the principal." I looked at Owen in surprise. "What meeting?" "Nothing important, just budget discussions." But Mira gave me a meaningful look. "Owen's been working so hard lately. He deserves recognition for everything he does." "What kind of recognition?" "He didn't tell you. He's being considered for department head. It would mean more money and better hours." I stared at Owen. "You're being considered for department head? Since when?" "It's not definite, just preliminary discussions." "Why didn't you tell me?" Owen closed his laptop with deliberate care. "Because I knew you'd make it about how the extra responsibilities would affect your schedule." "That's not true." "Isn't it? When's the last time we talked about my career goals, Z? When's the last time you asked about my work, beyond whether I could pick up Eva or attend a school function?" The question hung in the air like an accusation. Eva looked between us uncertainly, and Mira busied herself with the cookies. "We can talk about it now," I said. "Can we? Because you seem pretty busy with other priorities these days." The comment was pointed enough that even Mira noticed. She cleared her throat diplomatically. "Maybe I should give you two some privacy." "Don't leave on our account," Owen said, standing up. "I have papers to grade anyway." He left the kitchen, and I heard the guest room door close firmly behind him. The guest room where he'd been spending more and more time lately, claiming he needed quiet space to work. "He's really struggling," Mira said softly. "I feel terrible about the position I've put you both in." "You haven't put us in any position. Our marriage issues aren't your fault." "Aren't they?" "I've been living in your home for 6 weeks, Z. I've disrupted your routine, your privacy, your intimacy." Of course Owen resents me. "Owen doesn't resent you. He resents me for making decisions without consulting him." "Then maybe it's time I found somewhere else to stay." The suggestion should have relieved me, but instead it filled me with panic. Mira had become such a central part of my daily life that I couldn't imagine her not being there. "You don't have to leave. We'll figure it out." "How? Your husband is sleeping in the guest room now instead of the couch. He barely speaks to you. Your daughter is confused about why everyone seems angry all the time. This isn't sustainable. So what are you suggesting?" "I don't know. Maybe Owen should be the one to find somewhere else to stay for a while. Give you both some space to figure out what you want." The suggestion was so outrageous that I laughed. You want me to ask my husband to move out so you can stay? Not permanently, just until I get settled. A trial separation might be good for you both. Mira, that's crazy. Is it? You've been unhappy in your marriage for years, Z. You've told me so yourself. Maybe this is the universe giving you an opportunity to explore what you really want. What I really want? She moved closer to me, her voice dropping to almost a whisper. You know what I mean? And suddenly, I did know. The lingering looks, the casual touches, the intimate conversations. It had all been leading to this moment. Mira, I know it's complicated. I know you've never been with a woman before. But what we have is special, Z. It's real and honest and beautiful. We don't have anything. We're friends. Are we? Because friends don't look at each other the way you look at me. Friends don't find excuses to touch each other. Friends don't stay up until midnight talking about dreams and desires and all the things missing from their marriages. She was right, and we both knew it. Somewhere in the past 6 weeks, my feelings for Mira had shifted from friendship to something more complicated, more dangerous. I'm married, I said weakly. You're married to a man who doesn't see you, who takes you for granted, who treats you like a roommate instead of a lover. That's not Owen's fault. Marriage changes over time. It doesn't have to. Look at us, Z. Look at how alive you are when we're together. Look at how happy you've been these past few weeks. She reached up to touch my face, her thumb tracing my cheekbone. You deserve to be cherished. You deserve to be someone's first priority. Before I could respond, she kissed me. It was soft at first, tentative, but when I didn't pull away, it deepened into something hungry and desperate. For a moment, I let myself fall into it. Mira was right. I did feel alive with her, seen in a way I hadn't felt in years. But then I heard Eva's voice from the living room, asking where Mommy was, and reality crashed back. I pulled away, breathing hard. We can't do this. Why not? Because I'm married. Because Eva is in the next room. Because this is insane. Is it insane to want to be happy? I am happy. No, you're not. You're settled. You're comfortable. But you're not happy, and neither is Owen. She was right about that, at least. But kissing my best friend in my kitchen while my husband graded papers in the next room wasn't the solution to my marital problems. I need some air, I said, grabbing my jacket. I walked around the block 3 times, trying to process what had just happened. When I came back, Mira was reading to Eva in the living room, and Owen was nowhere to be seen. The guest room door was closed, and I could hear the faint sound of his voice. He was on the phone with someone. Who's Daddy talking to? I asked Eva. Uncle Seth. They've been talking for a long time. I felt a chill run down my spine. What was Owen telling his brother? How much had he seen or heard? That night, I lay in our empty bed, the bed I'd been sleeping in alone for weeks, and tried to figure out how everything had gotten so complicated. 6 weeks ago, I'd been a married woman helping a friend through a divorce. Now I was questioning everything about my life, my marriage, and my own identity. Around midnight, I heard voices from the kitchen again. Owen and Mira, having one of their late-night conversations. But this time, their voices were different. Tenser, more formal. I crept to the hallway to listen. Think this arrangement has run its course, Owen was saying. I understand. I'll start looking for other options tomorrow. It's not personal, Mira. You're a lovely person, and I know you've been a good friend to Z, but our family needs privacy to work through some things. Of course, I never meant to overstay my welcome. You haven't, but Z and I need to have some difficult conversations, and we can't do that with a house guest. There was a long pause. Owen, can I ask you something? Do you love her? Really love her? Another pause, longer this time. Yes, but I'm not sure she loves me anymore. And I'm not sure love is enough if we want different things. What do you want? I want a partner, someone who sees me as an equal, who values my opinions, who chooses me every day instead of just staying with me out of habit. And what does Z want? I don't know. I used to think I knew, but lately... His voice trailed off. I think she wants to be someone else. Someone more exciting, more spontaneous. Someone I can't be. You're a good man, Owen. Any woman would be lucky to have you. Thank you. That means a lot. I crept back to bed, my heart pounding. Owen was planning to ask Mira to leave, and from the sound of it, he was also planning to ask me some very difficult questions about our marriage. Questions I wasn't sure I was ready to answer. The next morning, Owen was gone before I woke up. He'd left a note saying he had errands to run and would be back later. Mira was unusually quiet, packing her things with efficient, purposeful movements. You're leaving? I asked. Owen and I talked last night. We both agreed it's time. Where will you go? Marina said I could stay with her temporarily. It's not ideal, but it's better than continuing to disrupt your family. I wanted to argue, to tell her she wasn't disrupting anything, but the words felt hollow. She was disrupting everything. My marriage, my sense of self, my carefully constructed life. About last night, I started. We don't have to talk about it. It was a mistake. I was emotional, and I misread the situation. But she hadn't misread anything, and we both knew it. Owen returned that afternoon with Eva, who seemed confused by Mira's sudden departure preparations. Are you moving to your new apartment? Eva asked. Something like that, sweetheart, but I'll still see you soon. Promise? Mira glanced at me, then at Owen. I promise we'll figure something out. After Mira left, the house felt strange and empty. Owen moved his things back into our bedroom, but he set up a sleeping bag on the floor instead of getting back into our bed. What are you doing? I asked. I thought we should talk before we go back to sharing a bed. There are some things we need to discuss. My stomach clenched. What things? Our marriage, what we both want, whether we want the same things. Owen, I know things have been tense lately. Tense? He looked at me with something approaching disbelief. Z, we've been living like strangers for 2 months. You've been more intimate with Mira than you have with me. That's not true. Isn't it? When's the last time we had a conversation that wasn't about logistics? When's the last time you asked about my day, or my feelings, or my dreams? I opened my mouth to answer, then realized I couldn't remember. And when's the last time you looked at me the way you look at her? The question hung in the air between us like a challenge. I don't know what you mean. Yes, you do. I've seen how you watch her, how you light up when she walks into a room, how you find excuses to touch her. I've seen you falling in love with someone else right in front of me. I'm not in love with Mira. Maybe not, but you're in love with the person you are when you're with her, and that person isn't someone who wants to be married to me. The accuracy of his observation was devastating. That's not fair, I said weakly. Fair? Owen's voice rose for the first time in months. Fair would have been discussing major household decisions with me. Fair would have been considering my feelings before inviting someone to live in our home for 2 months. Fair would have been talking to me instead of confiding in her about our marriage problems. How did I know you've been discussing our relationship with Mira? Because she told me. Last night, when I asked her to leave, she felt guilty enough to confess that you've been sharing intimate details about our marriage with her for weeks. I felt the blood drain from my face. What did she tell you? Everything. How you feel like we're just roommates. How you think I take you for granted. How you wonder what it would be like to be with someone more exciting. Owen, is it true? The question was simple, direct, and impossible to dodge. Some of it, I admitted. He nodded slowly, like I'd confirmed something he'd already suspected. Then we need to make some decisions, because I won't live in a marriage where I'm seen as the consolation prize. I won't be the safe choice you settle for while fantasizing about something better. You're not a consolation prize. Then prove it. Choose me, Z, not because I'm reliable or because it's easier than getting divorced, but because you actually want to be married to me. I do want to be married to you. Do you? Because from where I'm standing, It looks like you want to be married to the idea of me while exploring other options. The conversation was spiraling into territory I wasn't prepared for. What are you saying? I'm saying I've made an appointment with a marriage counselor, and I'm saying that if you're not willing to do the work to save our marriage, then we need to discuss separation. Separation. I love you, Z, but I love myself too, and I won't spend the rest of my life feeling like I'm not enough for my own wife. That night, we slept in the same room but not in the same bed. Owen on his sleeping bag, me in our king-size bed that suddenly felt enormous and cold. Over the next few weeks, we started marriage counseling with Dr. Patricia Reeves, a no-nonsense therapist who specialized in couples work. The sessions were brutal, forcing us to confront issues we'd been avoiding for years. Z, Dr. Reeves said during our third session, you seem to have a pattern of making unilateral decisions and then expecting Owen to adapt. Can you talk about that? I don't make unilateral decisions, I act when I see a need. Without consulting your partner? Sometimes there isn't time for lengthy discussions. There wasn't time to discuss having a house guest for 2 months. I squirmed in my chair. It started as one night. It just evolved. And at what point did you consider Owen's feelings about this evolution? I assumed he was okay with it because he didn't complain. Owen spoke up. I did complain. You just dismissed my concerns as selfishness. Dr. Reeves turned to him. Owen, why didn't you insist on being heard? Because I've learned that arguing with Z is futile. She's decided I'm the unreasonable one if I don't immediately support whatever she wants to do. That's not true, I protested. Isn't it? Name one time in the last year when I disagreed with you about something and you didn't make me feel guilty for it. I couldn't. Z, Dr. Reeves said gently, I'm hearing a pattern of emotional manipulation in your relationship. Can you see that? I'm not manipulative. I'm just passionate about helping people. At the expense of your marriage. The question forced me to confront something I'd been avoiding. I had been putting everyone else's needs before Owen's for months, maybe years. I'd been so focused on being seen as generous and supportive that I'd forgotten to be a partner. But the real crisis came in December, 3 weeks into our counseling sessions. I was at work when my phone rang. It was Eva's school. Mrs. Grell, this is Principal Martinez. We need you to come pick up Eva. She's had an incident. I found Eva in the nurse's office, tears streaming down her face. What happened? Some kids were teasing her about her parents getting divorced, the nurse explained. She got very upset. Divorced? We're not getting divorced. Eva looked at me with 7-year-old wisdom that broke my heart. But you and Daddy don't love each other anymore. That's not true, sweetheart. Daddy and I are just working through some problems. Then why does he sleep on the floor? Why don't you kiss anymore? Why does everyone seem sad all the time? I didn't have good answers for any of her questions. That night, Owen and I had the most honest conversation we'd had in months. She's right, I admitted. We don't act like people who love each other anymore. No, we don't. I don't know how to fix this, Owen. I don't know how to go back to who we were before. Maybe we can't go back. Maybe we need to figure out who we are now. And if we can't, he was quiet for a long time. Then we need to think about what's best for Eva and what's best for us as individuals. Are you saying you want a divorce? I'm saying I want to be happy, and I want you to be happy. And if we can't be happy together, then maybe we need to be happy apart. The conversation terrified me because it forced me to confront the possibility that I might lose Owen, not to another woman, or to some dramatic crisis, but to my own selfishness and emotional neglect. But it was too late for that realization to matter. The next morning, I woke up to find Owen's side of the room empty. His clothes were gone, his books were gone, and there was a note on my nightstand. Z, I'm staying with Seth for a few days while I think about what I want. I'll pick up Eva from school today and take her to dinner. We need to tell her what's happening, but I think we should do it together. I'll call you tonight. Owen. I sat in our empty bedroom, surrounded by the remnants of a marriage I'd systematically dismantled through 1,000 small choices, and finally understood what I'd lost. But understanding came too late. 3 months later, I was sitting in Romano's restaurant with my family, trying to pretend everything was normal. Owen and I had been separated since December, though we hadn't told most people yet. We were maintaining the fiction of working things out for Eva's sake, but everyone could sense the tension. Mira had moved back to California to live with her cousin. Our friendship hadn't survived the aftermath of her stay with us. The last conversation we'd had was awkward and painful, full of things we couldn't say and regrets we couldn't voice. "You look tired, dear," Yvonne observed, studying my face across the dinner table. "Are you sleeping well?" "Fine, thank you." Owen was sitting at the far end of the table, as far from me as possible while still maintaining the pretense of family unity. He'd been polite but distant for months, communicating only about Eva and logistics. "Daddy's been staying at Uncle Seth's house," Eva announced innocently. "He says it's temporary, but it's been forever." "Ava," I said quickly, "eat your chicken." "Why don't you and Daddy live together anymore?" "All my friends' parents live in the same house." The table fell silent. Seth and Kelly exchanged uncomfortable glances, while Yvonne's expression grew stern. "Sometimes adults need space to work through problems," I said carefully. "What kind of problems?" I looked at Owen for help, but he was studying his plate with deliberate intensity. "Adult problems, sweetheart. Nothing for you to worry about." But Eva was 7, not stupid. "Is it because of Mira? Because she lived with us for so long?" The question hit the table like a bomb. Yvonne's eyebrows shot up, Seth choked on his wine, and Owen finally looked at me with an expression I couldn't read. "Mira was just a friend who needed help," I said, "but you liked her better than Daddy. You spent all your time with her." "That's not true." "It is true. You never talked to Daddy anymore, and you were always laughing with Mira and hugging her and—" "Ava, that's enough," Owen said quietly but firmly. "I just want you to come home, Daddy. I want us to be a family again." The pain in her voice was unbearable. I felt tears starting to form, but before I could respond, a man in a suit approached our table. "Excuse me, are you Zafira Grell?" "Yes." "You've been served." He handed me a thick manila envelope and walked away, leaving me staring at it in confusion. "What is it?" Yvonne asked. With shaking hands, I opened the envelope. The first document was titled Petition for Dissolution of Marriage. The second was Motion for Temporary Custody Orders. The third was a thick stack of evidence, printed emails, text messages, bank statements, and photographs. "Owen?" My voice came out as a whisper. He was looking at me with calm, steady eyes. "I tried to save our marriage, Z. I really did. But you made your choice months ago." "What choice?" "You chose Mira over me. You chose your own desires over our family. You chose to lie and manipulate rather than have honest conversations about what you wanted." I flipped through the evidence with growing horror. Text messages between Mira and me that I'd thought were private. Bank statements showing expensive dinners and gifts I'd bought for her. Photos from social media showing us together at events where Owen was notably absent. "You've been spying on me." "I've been documenting the breakdown of our marriage. My lawyer advised me to keep records." "Your lawyer?" "I filed for divorce this morning, Z. I'm asking for primary custody of Eva based on your emotional instability and poor judgment." The restaurant seemed to spin around me. "Emotional instability?" Owen's voice remained calm, almost clinical. "You moved another woman into our home for 2 months without my consent. You displaced me from my own bedroom. You shared intimate details of our marriage with her. You prioritized her needs over those of your own family consistently. She needed help. And I needed a wife. Ava needed a mother who was present and focused on her family. Instead, we got someone who was more interested in playing house with her friend than taking care of her actual house." Yvonne was reading over my shoulder. her expression growing more disapproving by the minute. Zafira, some of these text messages, they're quite inappropriate. I looked at the papers she was referencing, messages between Mira and me that, out of context, looked intimate, flirtatious, romantic even. It wasn't like that, I said desperately. Wasn't it? Owen pulled out his phone and showed me a video. This is from our home security system, the night before Mira left. On the screen, I watched myself kissing Mira in our kitchen. The timestamp showed it was taken at 11:47 p.m., while Owen was in the guest room and Eva was asleep down the hall. "Oh my God," Seth breathed. "You kissed her," Eva said, her voice small and confused. "You kissed Mira like people do in movies." I felt like I was drowning. "Eva, sweetie, it's complicated." "No," Owen said firmly. "It's not complicated, it's adultery. And it's grounds for divorce." "I want to go home," Eva said, starting to cry. "I want to go home right now." "You are going home," Owen said gently, standing up. "With me. Your mom and I need to have some grown-up conversations, but you don't need to be here for them." He helped Eva out of her chair while I sat frozen, the divorce papers scattered across the table like evidence of my complete failure as a wife and mother. "Owen, please, can we talk about this privately?" "We had months to talk privately, Z. You chose not to. You chose to confide in Mira instead of me. You chose to build an emotional and physical relationship with another person while neglecting your marriage. It was one kiss. It was 2 months of emotional cheating that culminated in a kiss. It was 2 months of you choosing her over me every single day." Yvonne stood up, her face cold with disapproval. "Zephyra, I'm ashamed of you. Owen is a good man, and you've humiliated him publicly with this affair." "It wasn't an affair." "Then what would you call it?" Owen asked. "What would you call moving another woman into our home, sharing our bed with her, confiding in her about our marriage problems, buying her gifts, taking her to social events, and eventually kissing her in our kitchen?" I didn't have an answer. "I thought so," he said. "Seth, could you take Eva to get ice cream? I'll pick her up in an hour." After they left, Owen sat back down across from me. The restaurant had mostly emptied out. Our family drama had been quite the dinner theatre for other patrons. "I loved you," he said quietly. "I really did. But you stopped seeing me as a person months ago. I became an obstacle to what you wanted, instead of a partner, in building what we both wanted. I never stopped loving you. Maybe not. But you stopped choosing me. Every day, in 100 small ways, you chose her. Her comfort over mine. Her needs over mine. Her opinion over mine. I was trying to help a friend. You were trying to be the person you thought you wanted to be, instead of being the person you actually were. And in the process, you forgot that you had a husband who needed you too." I looked at the divorce papers again, seeing my marriage reduced to legal language and evidence exhibits. What happens now? Now you decide whether you want to fight this or accept it. My lawyer says we have enough evidence to make a strong case for primary custody, especially given Eva's reaction to your relationship with Mira. She's my daughter too. Yes, she is. And she deserves a stable home environment. She deserves parents who put her needs first, not parents who prioritize their friends' drama over their family's well-being. I can change. I can be better. Owen looked at me with something that might have been pity. "Maybe you can, but I can't trust you to try. You had months to be better, Z. You had months to choose our marriage. Instead, you chose to have an affair." It wasn't. It was. Maybe not a physical affair, but an emotional one. And in some ways, that's worse. Physical affairs can be about sex or momentary weakness. Emotional affairs are about choosing someone else to be your primary relationship. He stood up and put on his coat. "My lawyer will be in touch about the custody arrangements. I'm hoping we can work something out without a messy court battle for Eva's sake." "Owen, wait." He paused. "I'm sorry. I'm really, truly sorry." "I know you are. But sorry doesn't undo months of choices, Z. Sorry doesn't give me back the time I spent sleeping on couches and floors in my own home. Sorry doesn't erase the humiliation of watching my wife fall in love with someone else right in front of me. I wasn't in love with her. Maybe not, but you were in love with the idea of her, and that was enough to destroy our marriage. He left me sitting alone at the table, surrounded by the legal documents that would end our 9-year marriage. The divorce papers were thorough, professional, and devastating. Owen had been planning this for months, methodically building a case while I'd been lost in my own emotional confusion. I thought about calling Mira, but what was the point? She was in California, probably dealing with her own post-divorce reality. Our friendship had been collateral damage in the wreckage of my marriage. I thought about calling my mother, but I couldn't face explaining how I'd managed to lose my husband and primary custody of my daughter by trying to help a friend. Instead, I sat in Romano's restaurant until the staff started stacking chairs around me, reading and rereading the evidence of my own selfishness. Text messages that seemed innocent at the time but looked damning in black and white. Photos that told the story of a woman who'd stopped participating in her own marriage. The most devastating piece of evidence was a timeline Owen's lawyer had created, showing the progression of my relationship with Mira alongside the deterioration of my relationship with Owen. It was clinical, factual, and impossible to dispute. October 15th, Mira moves into guest room temporarily. October 16th, Owen displaced from bedroom. October 22nd, first late-night conversation between ZG and ML. October 28th, ZG misses family dinner to comfort ML. November 3rd, ZG and ML attend work event together without OG. November 10th, ZG purchases expensive jewelry for ML. November 15th, ZG and ML spend weekend together while OG cares for Eva. November 20th, family confrontation at Romano's restaurant. November 25th, physical intimacy between ZG and ML, video evidence. November 26th, ML leaves household. December 3rd, OG moves out temporarily. March 15th, divorce papers filed. The timeline made it clear I hadn't just made one bad decision. I'd made dozens of them, each one taking me further away from my marriage and deeper into an inappropriate relationship. By the time I left the restaurant, I understood that Owen wasn't the villain in this story. He was the victim of my emotional selfishness, my inability to see past my own desires to the damage I was causing. The divorce was finalized 6 months later. Owen got primary custody of Eva, the house, and most of our shared assets. I got weekend visitation, a small apartment across town, and the knowledge that I'd destroyed my family for a relationship that had lasted exactly 2 months. Eva adjusted better than I'd expected, though she was clearly angry with me for a long time. Owen never spoke badly about me to her, which somehow made his grace in the situation even more devastating. I never spoke to Mira again after she left for California. Whatever we'd had, friendship, attraction, mutual emotional manipulation, it couldn't survive the reality of what it had cost. A year later, I ran into Owen at Eva's school play. He looked good, healthier, more relaxed than I'd seen him in years. He was polite but distant, the way you'd be with an acquaintance you didn't particularly like. "How are you doing?" I asked. "Good. Really good, actually." "I'm glad." And I was glad, even though it hurt to see how much better his life was without me in it. "Z," he said as I turned to leave. "Yeah?" "I hope you figure out what makes you happy. Really happy, not just excited or distracted. You deserve that." It was the kindest thing anyone had said to me in months, and it came from the person I'd hurt most. I never did figure out what made me happy, but I learned what didn't. Prioritizing excitement over stability, confusing intensity with love, and choosing temporary thrills over lasting commitments. I asked my husband to sleep elsewhere because my best friend was going through it, acting like it was reasonable and temporary. But I didn't notice how it made him feel pushed out of his own home and replaced by someone else's needs. When he stopped arguing and started distancing himself, I realized that one